It's Greg Asamakopoulos on this Tuesday with today's edition of My Rhymes and Reasons. I'm here in one of my favorite places to walk, Pioneer Park. And here at the southwest corner of the park is this signboard with a number of regulations. Attention dog owners, dog rules, trail use guidelines. Reminder that this is a tobacco-free park. Any number of attention getters to make the park safe, usable, friendly, to get the most out of this wonderful place to get aerobic exercise or to walk your dog. I am also noticing that here is a paper bag poem. When fall calls, beauty answers. Listen with your eyes. That's my most recent post because fall is here, and with it comes one of the most beautiful times of the year, at least here in the Pacific Northwest. When fall calls, beauty answers. Listen with your eyes. I know you expected me to say listen with your ears, but I wanted to say listen with your eyes. That was an intentional play on words because it's through the eye gate that we are able to observe God's splendor in creation this time of the year. Why is this here instead of on the poetry? Well, that's an interesting question. Glad you asked. I'm not glad that I have to tell you that in recent days, after nearly 5 years of posting my paper bag poems on the poetry, someone has been removing them as soon as I post them. And rather than fight with whoever it is that is finding what I write objectionable, I decided to find a new place to post my paper bag poems. And for the time being, it's here on this signboard of cautions and guidelines, and amid all the cautionary posts, here is a positive post inviting walkers and passers-by to listen with their eyes, to make note of autumn. You know, I like to spell autumn, A-W-E-T-U-M-N. Autumn. Because with the falling leaves, the color leaves, the splendor of warm afternoons, cold nights, it's enough to make you want to say, ah. It's awesome, right? Well, the other thing that got my attention about this signboard is the fact that a lot of people look at the Old Testament, people who are not all that knowledgeable about the redemptive history of God's people, and aren't aware of the fact that the Ten Commandments and the other laws that God instituted, dietary restrictions and so on and so forth, were given to his people as a means of assisting them to stay healthy and to stay morally alert to life around them. It was a good thing, not a restrictive thing. If you don't understand the motive by which laws are given, guidelines are given, they may seem restrictive and onerous, but in the case of the Old Testament, God was looking out for his people and wanting them to have a means by which they would survive or at least live life to the fullest when their neighboring nations were not. Makes sense. You see, I'm wearing my Seahawks jersey, number 12. I'm a fan, and here in Seattle, we loyal fans are referred to as the 12s. We represent the 12th man on the field, even though there are only 11 players allowed on either side. The 12th man are the fans in the stands. We, at least at our home field, give our team home field advantage because we are able to shout and cheer at a deafening volume that it throws the other team a little bit off their game. But speaking of football, how would you play a meaningful game if there were not guidelines, if there were not rules, if there were not laws? The laws of the gridiron are what make the game meaningful, memorable. That's kind of how it is with the Old Testament guidelines. When God, out of the goodness of his heart, out of the love for his people, gave them a means of recognizing his lordship, asking for their obedience by giving them not just arbitrary rules, but rules that would make the game of life the most meaningful of all. With that in mind, on this Wednesday, would you pray with me? Lord, thank you for the gift of this day, for having seen us through halfway through the week. And even though we don't know what the rest of the week holds, we ask that you'd help us today to sense your presence, to be alert to those around us, and to take time not to smell the roses as much as to view the beauty of this autumn season around us. For it's in your name I pray. Amen. That's it for a Wednesday. I invite you to join me tomorrow as we look up that we might look forward with the sense of God's presence and goodness. Let's talk then.